We're at Straight Up Racing shop right here. We're speaking to Bill Payne right here, owner of Straight Up Racing.
It's the Clark Planetaries has kind of been the Achilles heel for a monster truck because it was the only part that of the Clarks that wasn't made aftermarket. I mean, they've got hubs, they've got champagnes, they've got spindles now, they've got hub supports, they've got all kinds of parts, but you know, it's getting to the point where we're having to buy whole planetary sets just to be able to get, you know, just the carriers. You know, so it's when we're speaking with TCI from, you know, our transmission builders, and they use 6-gear planetaries inside, you know, the transmissions just because it's you know, it's double the surface, you know, for the gears, so you're doubling the strength. So that was where we kind of tried to figure out how can we incorporate that into, you know, into the monster trucks. That's why we sat down with the CAD drawer, and you know, we playing around and trying to figure out how we can make this work, that something that could be, you know, affordable, you know, and you know, rebuildable, because that was the old factory Clarks. Once something happened, I mean, they were done. You know, if you lost a thrust washer, you couldn't get in there to machine it flat again because everything was a one-piece unit, unless you had some trick tooling. With these things, everything unbolts, and you can, say if you ever lost a thrust washer or you broke a gear and it scarred up something, you can split the pieces apart. You can just weld up, you know, because it's aluminum, you can weld the face up, and you can resurface it, whether you're, you know, want to use a mill or whether you just want to be, you know, a flat disc and a file. You can fix these things yourself. But we also made it to where all the parts were interchangeable, so you're using you know, you can use a stock Clark gear, the needle bearings, the thrust washers, everything can interchange. So if you have some of your old Clarks, you can, you know, get these parts and you can just use your needle bearings and your gears. Or if you've got some of these things and, you know, you want to fix your old ones, you know, we have all the gears now that we're having made. You know, as you can see, they're, you know, you got 6 gears inside. You got, now it's all bronze 904 for your thrust washers. You know, the gears are made from 8620. They're carburized 30,000 steep. They got a Rockwell of 52 on them, so I mean, they should be still a soft gear with a hard surface, so they'll get a good wear life, and then the shock load won't just shatter them because they're still a little bit on the softer side with only a 52 Rockwell. But we've been running them on Rockstar now. They're doing good. Titan's got a set. We just sent out a set for Jim Kohler with Avenger, and Feld's been testing some of theirs at their training camp. So it's hopefully we get enough trucks that put some serious run times on these things. So it's, if we need to make any changes, we can before, you know, too many get out there. And then you know, this gives the monster truck industry an option for, you know, aftermarket parts now.
And this is brand new now. Have you noticed any type of issues with it?
No, actually the best thing about that I noticed, everything's been staying tighter. So it's, you know, the cones do add, there's an engineering, you know, plus to the cones, where the cones that were on stock Clarks, they were a funky degree where we couldn't find the cones anymore. You know, it's just your average cone. You know, your truck cone is that, but the Clark was a different degree, so they never tightened up properly. So guys were always having problems with their hubs coming loose and then shearing bolts and the hubs falling off. So when we did these, we made sure that we got this, you know, an off-the-shelf cone, you know, so everything's machined to where we can do off-the-shelf parts. So we can go straight to Fleet Pride and buy these cones, or a Napa. And again, we did 10 holes with the cones, and if you want to be that guy, you don't like the cones, you can use the 10 holes that are just through holes, but they're 1.25 inches deep on the shank here, so it just gives you a lot more force for the bolts holding surfaces. Everything's used with ARP fasteners. I mean, it's the best bolts out there, so we try to do the best thing that we could right from the get-go. I mean, it's a very time-consuming process, you know, putting all these needle bearings and everything in the gears, and that's what I'll start first by, you know, loading all the gears with the pins, and then after that, then I'll start, you know, polishing the, you know, the hats, flip them upside down, start putting the thrust washers in, and starting assembling from there. You know, I Loctite everything together. You know, it's like I said, I'll be switching all my trucks over this winter to them, so all the Straight Up Racing trucks will have them, and then there'll be a half a dozen trucks that'll be running first quarter with these planetaries before,
right,
you know,
right.
people start struggling. I mean,
Okay.
Rockstar is a planetary killing truck, you know, yeah. With being heavy, the way it transfers the weight, full cleat tires. I mean, it was, and I drove, you know, you know, without a head some days, you know. So I mean, I would break more Planetaries on Rockstar. I'd break 5 or 6 a year, you know, and it got to the point where, you know, myself, we were running out of parts. So that's the biggest reason why we did it, you know. And then when we were talking with, you know, the guys at Feld, and they were having the same problems where they were starting to get concerned on, you know, their inventory of Planetaries, and then they had been trying to put the word out there for somebody to try to make something. You know, it just.
So how do you feel? You got Feld there. You got all these big names out there.
I'll feel better when everybody puts, you know, test time on them and there's no failures. You know, I mean, it's and that's the ultimate is, you know, obviously you always know there's going to be failures because, you know, monster trucks, as soon as you fix one part, you know, it goes to the next part. So I mean, that's that's going to be the next one, whether it goes to, now that these are stronger, is it going to be the bowl gear that breaks now, or is it going to be, you know, the sun gear or whatever? I mean, there's always going to be the next weak link, you know, and it's just one of those trying to stay ahead of the curve. That's why we got, you know, some of the heavy hitting hard guys that, you know, are going to put the test on it. That way, if we need that feedback on, hey, these gears need to be a little harder, or hey, let's carburize them deeper, or let's go 93, you know, 10 on the gears, you know, that way we can make these changes now.
Well, what I was trying to get at, how do you feel? How do you feel like, well, all these big names out there, Feld and these other names, been in the industry for a long, long time, and you started out, you're still very young now, you started really small, and then now you're bigger now. How do you feel like when all these names are looking at you for recipes for success and in the industry?
Yeah, and I mean nobody's looking at us for, you know, recipes or success. I mean, that's one thing that's been, you know, lucky with monster trucks is, you know, most guys aren't willing to, or, you know, they don't hide anything. You don't go to a monster truck show and they're covering their, you know, motors with tarps, or they're not covering their, you know, their axles so that you can't see them. I mean, most monster truck guys, because we're in the entertainment business, they want everybody to succeed. So, you know, people don't really look for me for advice. You know, some people will, you know, if we're at shows, the guys that are, you know, newer in the industry will ask, you know, for, hey, how do I fix this? But, you know, I did the same things. You know, I mean, I learned most of the stuff that I was taught from, you know, Jesse Berge, you know, when he was still alive. You know, I would call him at midnight, you know, and hold my phone up to the truck and say, it's not running right, you know, and he would just, you know, tell me, yeah, you still, I can't hear nothing, what's it doing, you know, and just, and those are the same things I'll try to do work for some of the other teams, just because, you know, that's how I was taught. You know, it was, somebody had to help me along when I first started, and we're going to pass it on to the other guys as well.
Okay, well said, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.